Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? Hopefully you can hear me okay. Again, I didn't check my audio. Had a crazy morning. I had a show scheduled for Mark Fullerton. It's been a long time coming. His dad was going to come on. And we had crazy storms that ripped through Oklahoma last night and, well, made it to his neck of the woods in Missouri. He had no power this morning. He couldn't connect with with his data. So anyway, I was preparing to do this show later this afternoon or tomorrow, and I was like, well, we'll just do this. Why not? Why not? Also this morning, I put a video up. It's under the live tab though, because I never download stuff and put it on as a video. I'm just really not good about that. For little Quentin Simon, because we're definitely going to be doing a live about that shortly. I don't know if it's going to be today or tomorrow. Who did I miss? No Chains No More. Good morning. Lala. Hello, Lala. Nana Banana. There's our friend Muscles. Hello, Jinbug. Ilyanka said the sound is good. Thank goodness. Hoping for answers. Hello. Hey, CR. Kalada Hope. Love it. Wanda Wonders. How are you doing? Hello, Amanda. Kamari, I was chatting with you earlier this morning. I think I said hi to everybody else. If I missed you, I apologize. I'll get you during the show, though. There's Tiffany. Tiffany had surgery yesterday. She texted me last night, said she's sore, but she's going to make it. She's going to make it. Good. Also, if you look, I put up new members icons this morning. Getting ready for St. Patrick's Day. That's the good thing about the world and people that sell greeting cards is that there's always another holiday around the corner. So it is St. Patrick's Day. I was going to do Mardi Gras, but since Mardi Gras is almost over, I mean, it's just next week. I was like, we'll just do St. Patrick's Day. Hello, oh, Lone Wolf, it's raining. It's raining memberships. It is raining memberships. Lone Wolf just gifted 10 memberships. Thank you, Lone Wolf. Thank you, sweetheart. Hello, Jamie Lunas. Kiki said, Kiki, thank you for the reminder. It's Baby Friday. It's Baby Friday. I feel like I'm way behind. It's like if I get away from true crime for a couple of days, because, I was obsessed with the Super Bowl. Then I had to do benefits enrollment on Monday. Plus, this whole thing in Ohio has really got me freaked out. Anything I can get a hold of about Ohio, I'm listening to. So I'm kind of like behind on what's going on with the cases. If it wasn't for Mama B posting all that stuff in the groups about Quentin, I'd been like, hell, I didn't know Billy was in court on Monday. Tamara says, I stay behind, not sure why or how. It takes a hot minute. Seriously, a hot minute. Especially with this case. This case is our toddler. You look away for an afternoon and you're behind. It's crazy. Okay, so basically every day on Banfield, the title will say source, colon, and something crazy. Who are all these sources? How come none of them can be named? Because, I mean, the chick that Bushy took out on a date, we know her name. We saw her face. She talked about being tickled and everything by Bushy. The people that knew him in high school, college, they're out and about. Even like the dude that was telling us how bad the jail is. So, I mean, who are these sources? Because if these sources are in any way, shape, or form connected with law enforcement, there's a thing called internal affairs. They'll figure out who they are and they'll be in big trouble. Actually, anybody that's connected to the case as far as law enforcement, say they work for the judge, district attorney's office, defense attorney's office, they could be in big trouble. The family can speak out. They can speak out. I'm just very curious. I mean, I don't really need to know who the sources are, but seems to me somebody could be breaking a gag order. Tiffany says, Brooks, sis, I'm sore, remember? Tiffany sore. Tiffany sore. We have that lady who, actually a couple of people now who are in love with Bushy. They're in love with him. We put it in Discord. Like one chick got a tattoo of him. Can you imagine? Rowena just said, I'm a source. Banfield needs to bring back her glasses. A lot of people are hating on Banfield. They are. It's just one thing after another. It's crazy. Source after source after source. I tell you what, June can't get here fast enough. Let me tell you why. Because every time a source speaks, this case becomes more confusing for me. The sources seem to negate the probable cause affidavit. We already had the crazy story about him being fired. I'm not really buying that anymore. We hear now that the 911 call was made by Ethan's best friend. Okay. But he had to use Dylan's phone. See, I don't understand why. He was called to come over, so he obviously has a working phone, but he had to use Dylan's phone to call 911. Then they're like, don't read into the unconscious person too much. That's all we do here. I played a clip on the Friday show. We're going to hear it again, where Kat, thank you so much. Kat welcomed all the new members and left a super sticker. Thank you, Kat. So Ethan's best friend. Then we hear that the girls just wrote everything off because they just thought that their roommates were partying. They just thought they were partying. Dylan supposedly at one point told everyone to hush up. So my question is, why does the probable cause say, in quotes, frozen in fear? It can't be both. You can't be frozen in fear because you saw those big eyebrows, but then you hear later that she just thought Brian was a friend of Ethan's that was there to party. It can't be both. How can you be frozen in fear? And I'm not doubting Dylan. I'm doubting the sources if you really want to know the truth. Because the probable cause is what was reported to them. The probable cause is the reason that the judge signed off on an arrest warrant. So when she gave her statements to the police and said I was frozen in fear. She didn't say I was frozen in fear, but then I just thought the dude was a friend of Ethan's. Then I went to sleep and I woke up and I called Ethan's best friend to come check on him. No. Hang on. Kaz says, I think the term frozen in fear was from the police, not from DM. A lot of people think that. They put it in quotes, which makes me think, because we've seen other probable causes, we followed other trials. Hello, Trevor. When they put something in quotes, it's either because it's a direct quote from the person or because they don't really believe what they're saying. I don't know. Something's not adding up. And somebody has to check out these sources, don't they? You can't run a show like News Nation and just say sources said and it just be bullshit. Let's look at the comments and then we're going to get to this. Hold on. Okay, hang on. Tina said it does not say frozen in fear. It says frozen shock phase. I got to pull the probable cause up again, and I'm going to look at exactly what it says. Either way, she was scared. However you want to phrase it, she was scared. But now we're hearing that she just thought they were partying. That they were being loud. It can't be both. It can't be both ways. All right, Lisa Durr, after the last show, said it makes sense to me that Kaylee went into Maddie's room during the attack. The sheath could have been dropped on the bed when he attacked Kaylee and why she had worse wounds. That makes sense to me. It does. By the way, there's also a new theory out that Bushy planted the sheath there. This gets wilder and wilder. Did you guys hear this? That the sheath that was left there doesn't belong to the knife he used. It's just a theory. I listened to everything. I think he got into a panic when Kaylee came in. And I think he left the sheath. I'm not sure if the sheath was left because he was fighting Kaylee, which makes more sense. Kaylee comes in to check on Madison. Madison was laying in her bed, so she's very unsuspecting of anything going on. Then we know Xana fought back. Oh, man. To even think about it. God. Stephanie said, and I think most people think there's a drug issue connected with the roommates more than the victims. Like the 8-hour gap was them getting rid of something they didn't want police seeing. Personally, I have no clue. I think there could be a lot of reasons for the gap. It is very strange that all of Greek Row seemed to arrive and trample the crime scene. It's a defense attorney's dream. I agree with Stephanie. I think it's odd as hell that all the friends were there. All the friends were there before the police. I don't believe for 1 minute that nobody in that house between, the friends they called over, Dylan and Bethany, didn't notice a stab wound. We've read the probable cause when they say the stab wounds were obvious. Not their exact words, I'm paraphrasing. Let's look at what the police said about the friends being there. I know I've played this a million times, but the look on the chief's face never gets old.
So will you clarify that for me?
You're not confirming a roommate called 911, but if you used the roommate's phone, so was there someone else at the home other than those roommates?
There was other friends that had arrived at the location.
How many?
Honestly, I'm not quite sure at this time, to be quite honest.
He goes, with his eyes about to pop out of his head, honestly, I'm not quite sure at this moment, he says. Okay, so if a couple of people were over there, it's easy to say 2 other people showed up. Let's say 3. I think, 3 people were there. His eyes, honestly, I'm not quite sure. Hell, for all we know, it could be freaking 20 people in that house. What the hell is going on here? I don't know. Bluebell said Steve is dying to talk and he can talk. She says nothing prevents family from talking about the case that I have seen. She said I would put money on Steve being the source. Also, they have a family Facebook page where they are asking for tips. He must think someone else is involved. Have we thought about that? Could it be a family member that's the source? Wanting to make sure, because a lot of times in these cases, once an arrest is made, the interest in the case falls away. You got to feel bad for Steve. He hires this attorney, and then next thing you know, this attorney can't talk. He's going to need the attorney for other reasons, though. He's going to need the attorney for other reasons. There's going to be a book deal. They're going to want to make a movie. Who knows what else is going to come out of this? So, of course, he needs this guy to navigate. Miss Moolah said she's wondered if the source is Ethan's half-brother. I thought about the sister-in-law. I don't know. But it's Steve's attorney that's challenging the gag order. And now we have sources telling us stuff that, well, only someone who's lying or someone who talks to someone who knows would know. Who knows? Also, as she said in her comment, the family of Kaylee's set up a Facebook page. They're asking for tips. Seems to me they think there's more going on than just Bushy. What do you all think? It clearly says they're looking for tips. Well, what tips? You have a whole probable cause that says he was seen by Dylan. It talks about his phone. He had been spotted in the area with this phone like 12 times before. That he turned his phone off, they believe. It's a lot of circumstantial stuff, don't get me wrong. But I'm wondering why they're asking for tips and why they don't want those tips directed to the police. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. So let's look at this. This is about the friend calling 911. I hope they keep, most people have figured out who the friend is already, but I kind of hope that they keep that to themselves. And they leave this guy alone.
We've known a lot of things, not everything, but the probable cause affidavit, some of the police reporting, and the news conferences, that's given us a small picture. But what we haven't known is what happened prior to the first responders arriving on the scene. And tonight I can tell you. You have heard that the 911 call was made from a surviving roommate's cell phone. But we can now tell you who it was who made that call. I'm not going to name the person, but it was Ethan's best friend who made the 911 call. And that's because it was Ethan's best friend who made the discovery of Xana and Ethan's body.
Okay, so I have questions. I've got questions. I've been asking for a long time, and I haven't found the answer yet, about the internal locks, the locks inside the house. Are they the normal shared living locks, like where you have a keypad? Everybody has their own code to get into their own bedroom? Stealing amongst college students and getting in each other's stuff seems to be a problem in these places. The pictures I have seen appear to be a code to get in. So it makes sense that the best friend would be called to get in the room. Lana says they all have key code locks on the individual doors because the rooms are rented out individually. Okay. That's the pictures I've seen. Did Bushy leave the doors wide open? Obviously not, because they had to call someone to come over. If they were just normal doors, well, she can turn a doorknob. So maybe she called him because she couldn't get a hold of them because this friend knows the code. I wonder why she didn't call Ethan's brother. Then I ask myself, how would Ethan's best friend know the code to Xana's room? How would he know the code to Xana's room? Also, if they got a hold of him, I'm sure they didn't tie a note to a dove and fly it over to him. I'm sure they communicated via cell phone. So he has a working cell phone. Why did he have to use Dylan's phone? This is very odd to me. Grandma Bunny says Xana's door was open. Well, then why the hell did they need him to come check out the scene? It's even said that he took Ethan's pulse. The probable cause makes it very clear that there was no pulse to be taken. They had visible stab wounds. Something here doesn't make sense. Kamari says maybe they were too scared. Like they were too worried that they couldn't get anybody to answer. But they were focused on this one room. They weren't concerned about Maddie. They weren't concerned about Kaylee, according to this reporting.
Bodies. And that is a very tragic and sad detail to report. Up until now, it had been an assumption that there was maybe an unconscious person because it was a guess that there was someone behind the door who wasn't answering a bedroom door. Now we can tell you that it was Ethan's best friend who had been called over that morning and made the discovery and took Ethan's pulse. Also called out to get 911 on the phone. It is more than likely that the phone that was used to call 911 was surviving roommate Dylan Mortenson's cell phone. You have probably heard up until now that it was an unconscious person that the dispatch.
All right, the unconscious person, unconscious person, unconscious person. Anybody want to take a guess why he would have to use Dylan's phone? I mean, between getting called that there's something going on at the house, him getting there, it doesn't seem likely to me that he would forget his phone or that suddenly the phone is dead. Why would you use Dylan's phone? That to me is odd.
Said over the radio, but that's not unusual because when there's confusion, it's standard protocol according to an article that came out recently in Airmail. Standard protocol, if there's confusion, just to skip the necessities of getting clarity and just dispatch the first responders for an unconscious person, regardless of what the actual situation is. So for anyone getting caught up on an unconscious person, probably not a good idea, given the fact that that's just sort of a standard description for get moving. We need people on the location. Again, this is multiple sources tonight with knowledge of the investigation.
Okay, now it's multiple sources. The multiple sources I'm going to guess, are the friends that don't want to be named. I don't blame them. I don't blame them. But for some reason, they want the story out. What's Lala saying? Because No Change is saying, Lala, you're on it. Lala said they didn't call the law. Is it because the law was already there? You're confusing me, Lala. What do you mean? Why would they call 911 if the police were already there? Lala, you're blowing my mind.
Telling us about who made the discovery of Ethan's body and then, of course, of Xana's body. What I can tell you is who made the discovery of Maddie and Kaylee on the 3rd floor. I'm not sure if it was any of the other kids who were called over. What is interesting about this whole scenario that played out that morning was that kids came over to the home and then 911 was called. So who knows if there was any knowledge of the carnage that had taken place in that home before the kids came over. I mean, it's college, right? It's Sunday morning after a fun Saturday night. And maybe, just maybe, kids were coming over to, get together and go out for a Sunday brunch.
A Sunday brunch? What the hell is she talking about? On the Dateline, one of the girls said that they had a study group. They had a study group. There goes Banfield speculating maybe they were going to get together for a Sunday brunch. No, that's not what they said themselves on Dateline. They said they had a study group. Sunday brunch? A Sunday brunch. Riddler said, how many 911 calls were placed between 4:25 a.m. and 11:58 a.m.? I don't know. I'm going to assume none. And I also want to know, what time was the friend called? And why were other friends called over? Why do you need more people? I don't understand. Like I said, every time a source speaks out, the probable cause seems to go away. That's why I look at the probable cause compared to what the sources say. So it's not adding up for me. It's just not adding up.
But some kids who are unidentified at this time went over to the house that morning, and it was Ethan's best friend who made that discovery and took Ethan's pulse and yelled for them to call 911, and ultimately got on the phone on Dylan Mortenson's phone and talked to the 911 operators.
Okay. I missed her saying this before. I've listened to it a couple of times, but I missed this part. She said that he went in there, he checked the pulse, he yelled to call 911. So I'm going to assume Dylan on her phone calls 911 and hands the phone to Ethan's friend who witnessed the scene. This ruined everyone's Sunday brunch, too. Thank you for throwing that in, Ashley Banfield. You basically just told everybody how old you are. Gotta be kidding me.
I want to bring in News Nation senior national correspondent Brian Enton. Brian has been at the forefront of reporting.
Brian's not in the snow and he's wearing a suit. This is interesting. Hang on, Trevor. Thank you for the super sticker. Said after this case is done, Banfield will either be up for an Emmy or be fired. She's either all over it or spewing more crap than a busted sewer. Oh my, Trevor. Oh my. Oh my. All right, Brian in studio, in a suit, not in the snow.
Reporting this story. It's such an uncomfortable detail, but it is one piece of the puzzle that we've been trying to figure out in terms of why it's so complicated, that scene the morning of the murders.
Yeah, so much of this has been confusing based on the reports we've gotten from police. There have been so many holes and things that they haven't shared. I think beginning with your exclusive reporting last week, things started to make a little bit more sense in terms of surviving roommate Dylan and the fact that she may have thought that there were noises coming from upstairs, but not necessarily noises that meant that something bad was happening or that a murder was happening. That started to explain why she may have not initially called 911, in the middle of the night. Your exclusive reporting sort of shed light on that. And now I think this sort of continues to, again, put the pieces together now to know that there were people who came to the house that morning. And it would make sense, what you said about the unconscious person, that may have just been a categorization that the 911 call was put under, but certainly tragic, as you said, to think that Ethan's best friend took the pulse. I mean it's all just so heartbreaking.
Thank you for watching.
Okay, now the true crime community had already put this together. And our clue was the chief of police said they called a bunch of friends over. We already knew this. But then they have to put in the extra that it was Ethan's best friend. I got all kinds of questions. So they call the best friend. I understand not calling the brother in case something is going on. There is a problem in there. But then many people say that the doors were left open. So, I mean, you peek in, you can obviously see there's something really, really bad going on. You would call 911 yourself, not a friend. My mind is blown. My mind is blown. It's crazy. I mean, here's the chief of police again.
So will you clarify that for me?
You're not confirming a roommate called 911, but if you use the roommate's phone, so was there someone else at the home other than those roommates?
There was other friends that had arrived at the location.
How many? Everybody at the call.
Honestly, I'm not quite sure at this time, to be quite honest.
He said, honestly, I'm not quite sure at this time, to be honest. So why is Brian Enton? Probably because he's not in the snow. He does his best reporting when he's in the snow. Why are they saying this is exclusive reporting? We already knew that the friends were there before the police. Tracy says, inside job, Bushy had a partner. Ethan's parents. We rewatched their interview where they said they were not told by the police. On the Dateline episode, Steve says before the police got to their front door, they were told something was going on by a friend. This is crazy. This is just crazy. I don't even know what to say. I really don't. All right, so we call Ethan's best friend, and somehow in that phone call, it turned into more friends than the chief can freaking count. No wonder they processed the crime scene for a month. God, think about all the DNA in that house. Got to be kidding me. Then we get to this. Okay, so I'm going to look at the probable cause real quick because I don't want to get in trouble. Hang on. Cancel. I don't want that. I'm going to read this real quick. I got to scan through it and find Dylan's part. I'm not scanning very fast, obviously. Okay, DM stated she originally went to sleep in her bedroom. I don't know why they use the word originally. She originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the southeast side of the second floor. Well, where'd she wind up? She still has to be on the second floor because she saw him on the second floor. DM stated she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Kaylee playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms, which were located on the 3rd floor. A short time later, DM said she heard who she thought was Goncalves, Kaylee, say something to the effect of, "There's someone here." A review of records obtained from a forensic download of Kernodle's phone showed this could also have been Kernodle, as her cellular phone indicated she was likely awake and using the TikTok app at approximately 4:12 a.m. Dylan stated she looked out of her bedroom but did not see anything when she heard the comment about someone being in the house. DM stated she opened her door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from Kernodle's room. DM then said she heard a male voice, something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." Some people say this is Ethan saying this. I think it's Bushy. I think I do. At approximately 4:17 a.m., a security camera located at a 1112 King Road, a residence immediately to the northwest of 1122 King Road, picked up distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper, followed by a loud thud. A dog can also be heard barking numerous times starting at 4:17 a.m. The security camera is less than 50 feet from the west wall of Kernodle's bedroom. DM stated she opened her door for the 3rd time after she heard crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. DM described the figure as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. The male walked past DM as she stood in a frozen shock stage. Okay, a frozen shock stage. What's shocking? What's shocking? If you assumed that everybody was partying, what's shocking about that? If you assumed Bushy was friends with Ethan and was there to hang out, what would be shocking? What are you shocked about? You live in the house. You know people come and go all the time. What was shocking? Because it wasn't the damn eyebrows.
Let me tell you, it certainly does give a little bit more perspective as to why she didn't call 911 right away, perhaps. We're told that Dylan actually mistook the noises that she'd been hearing. Remember, the affidavit said that around 4 a.m., she could hear some noises up on the 3rd floor, thought it was maybe, Kaylee playing with the dog, Murphy. Didn't think a lot more than that. But ultimately, a few moments later, she heard a lot of noises. She opened her door and effectively kind of yelled out to her roommates, "Calm down, like cut it out, keep it down. You guys are being loud. I'm trying to sleep. It's late."
Who would have given this information to Banfield? I don't think Dylan's talking to anybody. It didn't take a hot second for Dylan and Bethany to delete all their social media. I mean, it's on lockdown. It is on lockdown. Who could have given this information that she yelled? We know it's not the 4 victims. They couldn't have said that Dylan yelled at them. Bushy's not going to tell him anything. So who are we left with? Who else was there that could have given this information? Who could the source be? It's not in the probable cause. The probable cause says she opened the door several times, but didn't mention anything about how she yelled at everyone to be quiet. Instead, she stood in a frozen, shocked stage. She wouldn't have been shocked by a party. She wouldn't have been shocked by noise.
Like, cut it out, keep it down. You guys are being loud. I'm trying to sleep. It's late. Thinking that there were roommates horsing around. that perhaps all that noise that she was hearing was just them, being boisterous and still in party mode. It was late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. So she then closed her door and went back to bed, but within minutes, perhaps sort of roused again by noise, opens the door again, was going to say something again to the effect of, keep it down already. It's the middle of the night. And that's when she sees the figure coming towards her. Now, this
Bushy's a lot of things, but I haven't heard that he has a hearing issue. That would mean Dylan is causing attention to herself, and he would have known for sure that there's someone else in the house. So why? Not that we want anything to happen to Dylan. But he would know for sure someone was on to what was going on.
This has been a big bone of contention for a lot of people. Why, if you saw some shadowy, terrifying figure walking towards you, would you just close your door and go back to bed and not call the police? And the characterization to the source who spoke directly with her after the murders is that she didn't think that figure was anything other than just part of the horsing around, maybe one of the partiers, maybe somebody who was a friend of one of the other roommates that was making all the noise. But it, startled her nonetheless to see a man in the middle of the night, dark, walking towards her. Thank you for watching.
Dark, walking towards her. Not if she thought, okay, if he's walking towards her, then he saw her. If she's screaming for everyone, I say screaming, if she's yelling for everyone to just shut up already, then he would certainly know somebody might call the police. Wouldn't he think that? If she's yelling for, hey, you guys keep it down. Slim said, I would have pissed myself. Did she? If you're, think about it. It's kind of hard for us to put ourselves in Bushy's shoes. But if someone's screaming, keep it down, yelling, keep it down, they're opening and shutting the door. They see him. Wouldn't he be afraid of the police showing up real quick? I think these sources are full of crap. Something makes no sense. Polly says, I think he threatened her. Well, I want to know, and like I said, I don't want anything to happen to Dylan. But threatened her, he killed 4 people, supposedly. According to the probable cause affidavit, they believe he killed 4 people. Why not her? She made her presence known. She yelled outside the door, and she saw him. So is this a ratings game? Or what? What? Jamie said, screaming, loud thuds. Come on now. Yeah. I would think even the most amateur criminal would be worried that somebody would call the police. But I don't know. It's crazy. All right, you guys have got to hear this theory real quick. Hang on. This one, I don't know. You might agree with it.
This week, in the case of the Idaho student murders, I find incredibly interesting. It's about probably the single most important piece of evidence in the case: a knife sheath discovered at the crime scene, which allegedly has suspect Brian Kohberger's DNA on it. The theory is one I just hadn't even considered, that might have been intentionally left there by Kohberger to throw off investigators. The knife sheath looked like this, both with USMC imprinted on it, along with the U.S. Marine Corps Eagle, Globe, and Anchor insignia. This theory comes from a number of people, but most recently from criminal profiler John Kelly. And it goes like this: that Kohberger left the sheath on purpose, and that the military references were no accident, that they were a ploy to send investigators on a hunt for someone else, someone in the military perhaps, someone.
Now, when you hear it laid out like this, it does kind of makes sense, but I wouldn't think you'd want to leave anything behind. I mean, nothing. They got his DNA off of this. It's touch DNA, and I get that's, they're saying that can get thrown out easily. I don't know. And I don't know who they are. So he leaves it there as a ploy to throw them off. I think he just forgot it there, but I'm not the one on News Nation.
Other than Kohberger. To further this claim, Kelly calls this staging 101, perhaps a ruse learned from Kohberger's doctoral studies in criminal justice. Kelly claims a normal reaction for someone who had just used a knife would be to return it to its sheath. And the DNA found may have just been an oversight. It's a theory also suggested by British criminology professor David Wilson.
That seems to be a remarkably clumsy move.
Or a remarkably clever move. Because one of the things that's really struck me about the person that's been arrested and accused of this is he is intelligent and high functioning. So would a highly skilled, intelligent student who was teaching criminology, a PhD student, have made such a basic error?
Well, look.
But would a unskilled criminal make a mistake like leaving something behind? I get where they're going with this, and it's very interesting. Right there, they have the affidavit up. Appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Mogen's right side when viewed from the door. The sheath was later processed and had K-Bar, USMC, and the United States Marine Corps Eagle Globe and anchor insignia stamped on the outside of it. The Idaho State Lab later located a single source of male DNA, suspect profile left on the button snap of the knife sheath. Oh, Slim thinks the knife is still in the house. That's another thing. Still no weapon. Still no weapon. I wouldn't be surprised if that weapon's not in the Rocky Mountains, since they took a detour down to Colorado. No Chain says BP planted it. Lala says not if you're wearing blue gloves. That's another thing. Why would he not be wearing gloves? If he's so smart, he knows what fingerprints are. Come on. A first grader knows what fingerprints are.
The guy was clearly not the brightest criminal. We know that. But according to the criminal affidavit, the tan leather knife sheath was discovered laying on the bed next to Madison Mogen's right side. The Idaho State Lab later located a single source of male DNA left on the button snap. The knife itself is missing. And with Kohberger said to be an obsessive compulsive with other things like food, one imagines cleanliness in general, it's likely he hid the knife somewhere else after committing the murders, someplace where the blood wouldn't contaminate his clothes. They linked the knife to Kohberger through the DNA recovered from trash at his family's home in Pennsylvania. So let's talk this through with Jesse Weber, anchor and host on the Law and Crime Network, who has been closely following the story. Jesse, what do you make of the theory?
I think it makes no sense.
Come
All
on.
due respect.
Oh, Jesse says no sense. All due respect, this makes no sense. Okay, Jesse, hit me.
No sense. And I'll explain why. First of all, this K-Bar USMC knife, I can go on Amazon right now. I can go on kbar.com right now. I could buy it. This is not something that is exclusive to the military. And without any other evidence left there pointing to a member of the military, it makes no sense that he would think, or whoever the suspect is, that the police would immediately think military. And top of all this, the biggest point, I'm going to take the risk of leaving a piece of evidence that might have my DNA on it, and we all saw that it possibly does, with the idea of maybe the police are going to look at somebody else. It makes absolutely no sense. And if this really was the motivation, one of the dumbest things I've ever thought.
Well, yeah, and we know that he made other, mistakes, but the argument goes that he thought he had cleaned the sheath. He thought he had sort of left a pristine piece of evidence, but he missed the sort of the snap, right? He missed that one spot where his DNA was located.
No, what this seems to me is any case I've covered where someone has left evidence at a crime scene, it's a slip up. It's a mistake. So people might say, oh, he's so intelligent. You know, how did he not plan for this? If we have no indication Brian Kohberger ever did anything like this before, when someone is in the heat of a crime, they're not thinking logically. They could have been in a panic. They could have been afraid. We know that one of the surviving roommates said that the suspect walked right past her. A lot of people have been wondering why. If you
walked right past her, he left an eyewitness. He left an eyewitness. Unless the knife is broken, and we know it's not because they can't find it. If it's broken, it's going to be, not to be too gross, or grim, it's going to be in one of the victims. He left an eyewitness. To me, I think he was thrown off by Kaylee checking on Madison. How did he not know how many people were in that house before he went up there and attacked Madison?
who are in a state of shock after committing this crime, you can't explain everything why they do something or not do something.
And to support your point, which is pretty persuasive, I'm really getting tired of people talking about how smart this guy is, right? As if he was like the ultimate criminal mastermind who would never have. I mean, he made so many mistakes and so many slip-ups. This idea that, oh, you know, no way he would ever, right? I mean,
they're giving him too much credit. And can we also just address the idea of, well, he's a criminology student, right? So I've taken criminology before. I've spoken to criminologists about this. They don't teach you how to commit the perfect crime. They teach you how to understand why crimes are committed.
Jesse Weber, thank you very much.
Jesse, I really hope they aren't letting Bushy watch News Nation or Dan Abrams Live or any of that, because I think that might hurt his feelings. He already said when he was in Pennsylvania, his words exactly. The defense attorney said, I did not phrase this. He did. He said he is going to be exonerated. That's a strange word to use. Not acquitted. Not innocent. He said, I'm going to be exonerated. Britt said, I have a thought. If the sheath was left there on purpose, I don't think it was Bushy who left it. But if he is the one who did this, then he definitely messed up. Oh, yeah, for sure. Slimhauser said, a piece could have broken off is what has been reported by Joseph on Nancy Grace. That's kind of what I've been wondering. Like I said, not to mess up anyone's breakfast or your Thursday morning brunch, as Ashley Banfield would say. As heinous and brutal as these crimes are, I'm really surprised the knife didn't break. I don't know that much about knives, though. I don't know. I have no idea. The whole thing is crazy. It's getting crazier. And every time I hear that a source has spoke out, I'm like, hang on, that doesn't jive with the probable cause. Now, someone's theory is someone's theory. But when I hear that Dylan thought it was no big deal when she saw Bushy from the source because she just thought he was there to see Ethan. He thought he was one of Ethan's friends. I'm like, but that doesn't jive with the probable cause. When she opens the door and yells for everyone to be quiet, I wouldn't think, I'm surprised he didn't jump out the damn window. Why would you go to floor 2 if you know there's someone there that's already calling attention to his crime? Or somebody could come up the stairs. Everyone's got a cell phone. All right, so now we get to the gag order. All kinds of stuff going on with the gag order. It is a big source of contention. Also, I want to know, does Ashley Banfield have any other shirts? Is this a uniform? Is this a uniform? She seems to always be wearing beige.
Like to get your thoughts on this, that this was Ethan's best friend who actually made the discovery of the bodies. It wasn't first responders who discovered the bodies. Up until now, we'd always assumed that perhaps they were behind locked doors, and that's why the roommates had called, we can't wake our friends up. But it was Ethan's best friend. Not only that, took the pulse, called out to call 911, and ended up talking to 911 on Dylan Mortenson's cell phone.
Okay, you know that Garagos is chomping at the bit. He wishes he could defend Bushy. He is sizing this up every time he gets Banfield on the horn. He's already said exactly what he would do. Dang.
Does that matter? There's so many details that are being held close to the vest, Mark. And I just want to, from you, find out if it really matters to the investigation. Does it matter to the rights of the defendant in this case, these kinds of details that are all being gagged?
You know, I've always had, Ashley, and you and I have been around together doing various cases for many years, ones that I've tried and ones that you've covered. And one of my frustrations in defending these cases is when you clamp down on the coverage, and you do it by way of a gag order. And you'll remember many years ago that started during Michael Jackson and Scott Peterson and then Kobe Bryant and it was basically the same gag order that was kind of circulated, even though it was in different jurisdictions. And the frustration is that gag orders were originally, when F. Lee Bailey did his case many, many years ago, that put him on the map, and it was to protect the defense. Now what it does, I think, in my humble opinion, is that it works to the detriment of the defense. And what ends up happening is you might be able to gag the lawyers, they're under a duty, but law enforcement leaks. Other people leak that are connected, that may have documents. I mean, the DeLorean case, I remember the paralegal leaked for the defense. And so what ends up happening is you get all of these kinds of urban legends that kind of flow to the case. And
I agree with him. Okay, what? Ashley's on a roll. Ashley is on a roll. I'm going to start calling her Beigefield. She's always wearing beige. It's the craziest thing. Can't even throw a yellow or a red in there anytime, not even on Valentine's Day. Always wearing beige. But he said he's naming other cases. It could be a paralegal. If you remember, in the Gannon Stouch case, the arrest affidavit of Letitia was leaked by a paralegal. The paralegal lost her job and she had to pay like a $200 fine, but still, it could be something like that. But I'm sitting here racking my brain. I'm like, who the hell are these sources? You're telling me that the girl that got tickled by Bushy, she's got no problem being on camera. All of the friends that knew Bushy, the student at Washington State, he's on camera, but the other sources can't be named.
To the populace, and there's no way to disabuse people of that. Even when you do jury selection, they just don't. They think they understand things, and it's very hard for people to disabuse themselves or set it aside. I always think in these kinds of cases, more information is better than less.
You know, and I just want to touch on that because there is a healthy debate among people who are looking at this case. The First Amendment versus the Sixth Amendment, the right to a speedy trial and a fair trial, an impartial jury. But we also have a transparent system of jurisprudence in America, and that is very important. You know, that's something that not a lot of people talk about as well. And I wonder, from your perspective, because you covered these infamous, I should say, defendants.
Look at his face. He's flattered. He's flattered by Beigefield. Has Beigefield, she's been around a minute. Has Beigefield thought that maybe this gag order is to protect the integrity of the trial, not the case per se, because they have an arrest? Maybe they want to make sure that on appeal, he can't say that everybody already had their mind made up. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Beigefield knows, though. She's the one putting all these sources' information on her widely watched channel.
If you can get a jury for OJ, if you can get a jury for Casey, if you can get a jury for John Wayne Gacy, even, going back a bit here.
Bad examples. Bad examples, but okay.
But do you know what I'm saying? If you can get a jury for those people, is there a danger of protecting a jury pool too much to the detriment of our system in America, where we just don't put people in black hoods and throw them in a gulag?
So I've had this argument for decades, and part of what the argument that I've made in response is we have reached a point where we have supersized cases. Idaho is a supersized case. So if you're going to import kind of a tabloid model, and I don't say that in a pejorative sense, I say it what originally kind of developed in England, then why don't we have what's called the Contempt of Court Act, which they have in England, which is as soon as this trial starts, they clamp down. Now, you say, well, that's not part of the American way. Well, then there is another alternative. The other alternative is, well, once you start the trial, sequester the jury. And why I say that is, if you believe the jurors when they tell you they're going to set aside everything they've heard, which is great. I want jurors who have a presumption of guilt many times because they're being honest with me and they'll set it aside. But if they're going to do that, then I want to be able, and I want to be free outside the presence of the jury to argue that evidence should not come in. You take a look at the Murdaugh case. There was so much testimony for the motions in limine outside the presence that seeps into the ether. Jurors are going home each night. I've never got.
He's using big words, and Beigeville's getting real confused. She's not liking this conversation.
At a high degree of confidence that they don't hear what was presumably excluded. So if they're sequestered, I think that's the magic silver bullet.
Okay. Well, Mark Aragos, I'm always fascinated in what you have to say because, like I said, you've been there. You've been in the courtroom with very famous people as defendants beside you. And so you know from the other side what it's like. Thank you for this tonight. Look forward to our next time.
She looks kind of bored to me. Fascinating. Fascinating as always. Fascinating as always. Oh, I can't wait till we can pick this back up because she's like, you're using $5 words, man, and I got a $1 dictionary. My goodness. Yeah, shoulder pads. I mean, she used to wear brighter colored lipstick too. And now it's like the lipstick has to match the one shirt she has at News Nation. If Enton can show up in a suit, I mean, come on. I mean, I'm not asking for her to look like Hillary Clinton or anything, but she's got to have another shirt. Every clip I've played today has been a beige shirt. And Friday and last Wednesday. My goodness. Oh, True Crime with Shannon throwing shade. Coffindoffer would love the Beigefield nickname. She would, because she's getting tired of her ass getting cut off on that show. Woohoo! Kaz says the only ones we know for certain has lied is the police. We'll hear an entirely different story in June. Well, if the police are lying, they better figure something out because June is a lot quicker than you think. A lot quicker than you think, and they have a lot of work to do. I heard that the prosecution hit the defense with like almost 1,000 pages of evidence, and they don't even have it all yet. So, as we've said before, that probable cause is their weakest evidence, and it's the tip of the iceberg. Question is, with all of this secret source talk, what are they going to do when Dylan testifies? They're going to have a lot of questions. If Beigefield has questions, you know the jury's going to have questions because Beigefield, she's a genius, right? They're going to have a lot of questions. They're going to say, well, hang on, why'd you wait 8 hours to call? Hang on, why did you call his friend as opposed to using what's going on here? Something here's not adding up. Why did the friends get there? Why did the whole street show up? Then here's going to be the defense saying, hell, it could be anybody. You kidding me? We have like 500 profiles out of that house, and you're saying it's him? Does it look like anybody in that house wanted to party with him? You're saying it's him? I don't know. I don't know. Speaking of the defense, it looks like they went ahead and they agreed on how much they're going to pay them. Nani said the defense is going to tear Dylan into shreds on the stand. I heard one of the experts the other night say, oh no, the jury wouldn't go for that. The jury wouldn't. No, the jury would be so mad. No, they're going to be really nice to her. No, I don't think they are. I don't think they're going to be unusually cruel, but I think they're going to use what's in the probable cause. This is just my opinion. Just my opinion. I think they're going to use what's in the probable cause against the prosecution. They're the ones that put it in black and white. She opened the door 3 times. Frozen shock stage, but didn't call the police. They better find a doctor to explain that to this jury.
With a development in the court proceedings involving the murder of 4 University of Idaho students, Kootenai County's public defender, Ann Taylor, is representing murder suspect Brian Koberger.
So an agreement approved just a few hours ago outlines how much Latah County will pay for her services. Crime 2's Amanda Rowley obtained a copy of the draft agreement through a records request to Kootenai County. She's joining us here live in the studio with details you'll only see here on Crime 2. Amanda?
Kootenai County entered into what's called the Capital Criminal Defense Provider Agreement with Latah County. Not only does it detail how much Latah County will pay Ann Taylor to defend the murder suspect, Brian Koberger, it also points to the likelihood of this becoming a death penalty case.
We're still a long way from the trial for Brian Koberger's alleged involvement in the murder of 4.
Real quick, if you know, you know. They just brought up the death penalty. How long do they have to say that they're going for the death penalty? I know in some states there's a time limit. Like they're kind of like, shit or get off the pot. Either you're going for the death penalty or you're not. So do you know in Idaho how long they have to announce that they plan to seek the death penalty? I think we were talking about the Quentin Simon case, and Christina said, I think they have 2 months in Georgia. Because I said, I don't know about Georgia. I don't know. Just curious.
University of Idaho students. Brian Koberger's alleged involvement in the murder of 4 University of Idaho students. Meantime, Kootenai County has agreed to lend its public defender services to Latah County for this case. According to the Capital Criminal Defense Provider Agreement, Latah County wanted to establish competent defense counsel for Koberger and a team of attorneys who are qualified in death penalty cases. It also details compensation for Chief Public Defender Ann Taylor and her team. Latah County will be paying Kootenai County $200 per hour during the 40-hour work week, and any hours outside of that, Latah will pay Taylor directly at the same rate. It's the same setup for the second attorney attached to the case, only he will be paid $180 per hour. Attorneys will also get reimbursed for mileage, lodging, and meal costs.
Man, I tell you what. True Crime with Shannon said, what a great paycheck. I think we're going to start seeing more and more of this in different states, because it's always said that these public defenders don't work that hard when it's their turn to defend. And they can't defend without, they need a budget. They need a budget to do it. Kind of a punch in the gut when you think about it, but it is what it is. And I think everybody deserves a good defense, no matter how guilty they are. I know that's not a popular opinion, but that's how it goes. And a lot of these people say, oh, it's just a public defender. It's just a public defender. Look, I don't think any of these attorneys want to lose their law license. I don't think they want to get called up by the bar. So they have to give them a good defense, because it's been said over and over and over and over again in these cases. We haven't gotten to it in this one, where one of their appeals is always ineffective counsel. Ineffective. And if it turns out they were ineffective, they could lose their law license. So they have to fight like hell.
Reimbursed for mileage, lodging, and meal costs. Taylor's investigators are even getting compensation at a rate of $45 an hour.
Why are they paying for their meals? Mileage I get, because they have to go back and forth from the county she's in up to Latah County. I get the mileage part. Why are they feeding them too?
Now, mentions of death qualified attorneys in the agreement are a big indication the Latah County prosecutor may pursue the death penalty. The cost to do this can add up quickly. But Idaho has a voluntary capital crimes defense fund to ease the burden. In order to access the fund, a county must meet a criteria, one of which includes a county prosecutor must declare they will seek the death penalty no later than 30 days after the defendant enters a plea.
Okay, well, had I paid better attention, I would have had my answer. A county prosecutor must declare that he or she will seek the death penalty no later than 30 days after the entry of a plea by the defendant. Now, do you think they'll roll the dice? I mean, they couriered over like 995 pages of evidence. Because when you ask for death, that's a little different.
Kohberger is expected to enter his plea on June 26th, which means the prosecutor has until the end of July to officially pursue the death penalty.
All right, now let's circle back to that $200 an hour rate for the public defender. That may sound like a lot, but we asked local attorneys and they say that rate is on the lower end for this type of agreement.
I would think so. Quadruple murder? You think Garagos would do that? Garagos, he pisses $200. He wouldn't roll out of bed for $200, but I bet he would for this case. I bet he would. With said, Brian is costing our state a ton of money. So are Chad and Lori and Stacy and Sarah Wandra. It's a punch in the gut for you, Wist. It's a punch in the gut for you, that's for sure. True Crime with Shannon said she will work her tail off for Bushy. I guarantee she will. Because all eyes are on what they're going to do. We've seen the probable cause, so we know which way the prosecution's headed. But they also had to have a public defender that is experienced and qualified to defend a death penalty case. If for some reason they disqualify her, I read this. I think it was KREM that had this. I had to find it. It was interesting. They said if for some reason, you know, people talk about the conflict between Xana's mom and Bushy, the whole 9 yards. I mean, I don't know who in that state she hasn't represented. They said then the state of Idaho would have to pay for a private attorney. The private attorney would probably have him by the balls and say, well, you got to get him an attorney and you have to make sure we have plenty of time to defend him. So I don't think I'm going to go for that $200 an hour. I don't know. Just my opinion, though. Just my opinion. So now we wait for what, we wait for Banfield to change her shirt. We wait for more sources to come out because God only knows what they're going to have to say. God only knows what they're going to have to say. We're running out of gossip. They're going to have to get real inventive. But every time a source comes out, I go to the probable cause. I have it bookmarked on my computer. And I'm like, this doesn't add up. This doesn't add up. She's yelling outside her door. The probable cause said, well, she opened her door several times. She just thought there was some partying going on. That was what one source said. Tina, I'm not being rude about Ashley's looks. I think Ashley's beautiful. I can't figure out, working for a network like News Nation, why they don't have a full wardrobe. That's what I can't figure out. I think she's absolutely gorgeous. So I don't know. What the sources are saying don't add up with the probable cause. Do you guys think they do? Some people say that the sources are Bethany. Bethany's the one that we don't know anything about. We just know that Bethany was on the first floor, and Bethany saw Ethan and Xana at the frat party. So when they say that the roommates are the key to the whole thing, they were not shitting us. Bethany sees them at the frat party, even though we're missing 45 minutes. And Dylan sees Bushy. What the hell? Jinbug said none of it adds up. Karma says supposedly Brian talks to Bethany and Dylan on their OnlyFans. Oh, yeah, I heard about the OnlyFans. It's insane, guys, and it gets crazier every day. I really thought after an arrest and such a heavily detailed probable cause, I didn't really think too much more could come out. Leave it to Beishfield, though, because she's got sources every day. She's got sources coming out her ass. Big time. All right, guys, as for today, that's all I've got. Make sure, though, that you're reminded, because maybe later this afternoon, I'm going to do a show about Quentin Simon, because when I think about old Billy showing up to court with 8 notebooks of Leilani's, that blows my mind. But, again, sorry about the show change this morning. It had to be done because, like I said, Mark Fullerton's father doesn't have electricity. He couldn't connect. So we did this show early. But hell, who knows? I might be back in 2 hours with another source. Another source. There's always another source when you work at News Nation, it seems. It's crazy. But you guys have a great rest of your baby Friday. I'll either see you over in Discord or one of the Facebook groups. As always, thanks to the Mod Squad. And thanks for being the absolute best community in chat on YouTube.